FreightValidate does is really dig into objective. Is this person, yes, no factual information, no hypotheticals, no guesswork, no predictions of how they're going to act. Are they in violation? So where my carrier portal really comes in on their part is risk assessment to say, okay, this guy's been blocked by one of our customers or by many of our customers, or they have a certain amount of stars or those kind of things. That's all important. But I think that before we get to looking what the person may or may not do or the past performance, we need to know if we should be looking at them in the first place. Are they in violation of federal law? That's really the main crux of it. And our research in the last 2 years has found that 1 in 5 applications that comes through the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration that they approve are bad guys that should never have been given their authority in the first place.
Awesome. Yeah. So you can see here, obviously you guys are familiar with the portal, but this is, how it's going to look right now. And what Dale was talking about is, basically we're providing you as much info as possible. A lot of it is shared data. And we're trying to prepare you as much as possible. And with Dale's information, it's completely objective. There's no, kind of discrepancy on whether it's the truth. If it's a criminal, it's a criminal. And so how this is going to look once the integration actually goes into effect, which is going to be tomorrow, this area right here is now going to be designated to FreightValidate. So when it comes up that person is absolutely a bad guy, don't let him in, don't wait for the report to happen, stop the incident before it ever becomes a report, basically. So this right here, if you see this red X, this entity cannot be validated. And not only that, you're going to have, a way to access support immediately from the portal. You're also going to have a link to the FreightValidate landing page, which we'll show you that here in a second. But this page right here is going to go more into depth on what these determinations and these statuses mean. And then also this is where you're going to sign up for your free trial. And then the frequently asked questions. So I try to think of as many questions as possible and put them into a collective sheet for you guys. But it's going to be like one of those ever-growing things that's never going to, it's always going to be ever evolving with the questions that we get. So anywho, you're going to see FreightValidate here, front and center. So I wanted to kind of delve into this, Dale, for a second, because I think this is pretty cool. So here you have the red X, which you're going to, obviously mimic that within the portal. So with that 14-day free trial, you're not only just going to have the indication that, FreightValidate said, hey, this is no, don't work with this guy. However, if you actually have the full suite, of FreightValidate's tools, and during that 14-day free trial, you're going to have a bunch of information in here. I don't know if you want to go over this. Yeah, it's quite a bit to go through, but if you want to keep it high level.
I will. So when you look at FreightValidate, a risk assessment may be, when you look at MyCarrierPortal, a risk assessment may be this company is affiliated with 15 other companies, or has, shares an address with, or shares a phone number or an email address. That's important information to know. That in and of itself is not illegal. You think of Landstar, they have Legion, they have Inway, they have Ranger. Those are all affiliations that are completely legal, completely normal. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration knows about it. What we try and find, and we dig for and do find, is there an affiliation that they're trying to hide something, where they're saying, we have people that we found 150 affiliated MC numbers owned by the same group of people. So we dig in and using not just data that comes from the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, because when you use data science, people can spell their name differently on one MC number, change an I to a Y, or a C, like a Christina from a KR to a CH. You can't find that in data science. You have to dig into it. So this particular company not only were they affiliated, which is not illegal, but they were lying about their affiliation with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. We actually go to the FOIA office, the Freedom of Information Act, and grab the documents and see what they entered on their application. Did they mark that they're not affiliated with anyone? Well, we go look at the Secretary of State's office and says, not only are they affiliated with this guy, they're affiliated with another 10 people. And we found applications where a person has signed 10 applications for authority. His signature is on each one of those. They match, but he spelled his name wrong or changed something to show to the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration that they're not affiliated. His signature is exactly the same on those documents. So we verify that information to say this guy is in violation of, in this particular case, Public Law 112-145 DI, which is MAP 21, one of their requirements in there. So there's a kind of a similarity where if you're looking at it now, you'll say, oh, they're affiliated, but then you'll have to look and say, okay, how's that affiliation work? We do that for you to tell you exactly how they're affiliated.
Yeah, and some of that, I mean, is a manual process, right, Dale? It's not that you're just like, can you kind of dig into that a little bit? Because I think that's really important also.
Yeah, I don't think that any platform that says that they can help you or fight fraud can do it simply with algorithms, AI, RPAs, data science. You have to really have a forensic mind and do investigations on these people. That's the only way you're going to get to the bottom of it. I spent 20 years in the Marine Corps. My last 6 were that I spent in there was doing this sort of thing. I was on the Commanding General's Inspector General team, where I went out and found things that were wrong and found ways to fix them. And that's what I'm developing with this. I'm finding what's wrong and I'm fixing it. The other thing I think is important to note is I think that when I talk about the Delta program that don't even let them aboard, a lot of platforms are just finding ways we should look for things that are wrong, like how many inspections they have, how long they've been in business. To me, if I can give you an analogy, that's like your basement is flooded with water and you're taking a 5-gallon bucket and throwing water out, to try and get the bad guys out, when no one has plugged the hole of the water coming in the first place. And that fire hose is running fast and furious. And that's what we're blocking. Don't let them in the first place. I don't want people to become a victim. I don't want people reporting on what happened. I want them to stop what's going to happen if they don't look at these people.
I think that's actually a really valid point too. I mean, you have years of service in the military, finding things that are wrong, but also you had 32 years of broker experience, right?
Right. I spent 16 years on active duty, 4 years in reserve, started my brokerage company directly while I was in the Marine Corps, and then in the reserves. And then now, also I spent some time working for the federal government I actually worked for DOD as a civilian for a while. So I kind of understand the inner workings of the federal government and how rule changes and all those things happen and how to deal with them. And that's why I'm probably one of the only folks out here in this space that has almost daily conversations with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. I mean, I talk to them, I have conversations with them. They take information that I have to try and fix their vetting and registration process. So we have a good relationship. Sometimes it's a love-hate relationship because, I don't agree with what's going on. And I know that the folks I talk to can't fix a lot of it. We have to deal with our senators and congressmen to change laws. But in the meantime, if I can find any kind of way to get in there to fix things, that's what we want to do. We're not just an identity and verification validation company. We also want to educate our folks that are subscribers or anybody in the industry to show them how to make things work and how they do work and how we make it better. So, this partnership with MyCarrierPortal allows us to do a lot more of that because we're really digging in for more information. We really want to help the industry, by providing tools not only to identify the folks but find out how they got there. And maybe they're 30% of the companies that apply don't, even though they signed their application, it says, I understand the rules of CFR 49. I mean, we all have signed something that says, I understand everything that's in my Apple disclosure on the app. They don't understand it. So we try and help those guys too by saying, hey, I know that you mean well, but you're actually in violation of a specific law. And let me help you fix that because I know you're a good guy.
Yeah, I think that's super important. I mean, just having that background in logistics is paramount. I mean, you have tech companies popping up left and right, and they may say that they're doing it the best, but if you don't have that firsthand experience or you haven't been in the industry for a long time, I just don't I don't think that you're gonna provide the same value to your customers. Danielle, she's a one of our salespeople, and she was a broker for 6 years. I think that her mindset, she knows how they think. She knows like, you know, what what's important to them, how their day looks, what they're doing, how fast and furious it's going. It's got to be pop, 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 instant notification, things like that are important. Um, I think that that kind of segues though, Dale. I'll just kind of skip on down.
Yeah.
So we've had a couple instances just recently, and I was going to try to share my other screen, but I'd have to switch it, but I'll pull it up in a second. So, like you said, I mean, you're not just like a vetting or monitoring platform, and I don't believe that we are either. It really
No.
is trying to help people understand the tools, but then also like where the risk is. And sometimes people just don't even know, like for instance, I'm not going to say the name of the company, but if you want to talk about the one
Yeah.
just the other day, I think that one's a big one.
Yeah. We had a MCP customer that contacted us through MCP and told us, we found that they were, when we ran the report of that company, we found that they were not validated in FreightValidate. And so we let the customer know that, and they, said, we are totally validated. We've been around for a long time. We've gone through all the other platforms, and we've never been identified as something that's not validated. So when I pulled up the reports that I got from the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration to show them the documentation to prove it, they had 3 MC numbers that were owned by 3 people that shared ownership in the other MC numbers. That's a violation of Public Law 112-145, paragraph DI, that says you have to disclose any affiliation with another motor carrier operating authority holder, whether it's family relationship, whether it's ownership relationship, a managerial relationship, you have to disclose that. That came out in MAP 21 to stop the chameleon carriers who had a bad safety rating and then tried to just open another company, even though they were affiliated with another one at the same time. So we were able to show them that, you're good, we understand that, but you don't understand the 945 pages of MAP 21, and we do, and we want to let you know how that works. We took their information, fixed it, made them good, because they were able to prove that affiliation and how it worked. And we were able to disclose that to the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. Again, the affiliation is not the problem. It's the non-disclosure or denial of the affiliation that causes the problem.
Yeah, and then recently we also had the incident where somebody didn't even know that their identity had been stolen. So it was basically going into repair mode. And I mean, you did a lot of that legwork yourself. I believe you were even in touch with Ken Ruddle, the director of DOT FMCSA.
Yeah, I talk to those folks a lot, and I try and find out how do we make things happen. What really, the latest conversations I've been having, because this is becoming more and more prominent, is the people that are having their identity stolen by changing an MC number, I'm sorry, changing a email address, they're changing a phone number, they're changing those kind of things, usually through a phishing attempt or something, but they're changing it in Federal Motor. Then when the customer finally finds out, sometimes it's too late, the load's already been stolen or something's happened. And so they call Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration and says, we'll mail you a PIN number. It'll take about 14 days. Then you can come back in and change your information back. To me, that's just absurd. It's ludicrous. It's just a dumb way of doing business. Why in the world is it easier for a scumbag, and I use that term very loosely throughout everything I do, because that's what I consider these folks to be. How can they change that information? But me, as the good guy who owns it and has owned that company for 15 years, can't go back and change it without waiting for a PIN number to come in the mail. So in this case, well, here it's on LinkedIn. Dwight over at Homeland, contacted me and said, "Here's the issue I'm having." It took him 6 months. He worked on it for 6 months with conversations with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. How do we change our thing back? How do we change it back? They're working on it. The 4 words I hate the three words I hate that come from Federal Motor Carrier Safety or any governmental agency, we're taking it under advisement. That's just ridiculous because scumbags are ripping us off while they're taking it under advisement. So I got with Dwight and showed him how to fix it and how to fix it quickly. That was at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. At 4:25 a.m., the FMCSA had shown that his address was changed back to what it was, his mailing address, and his principal place of business address was changed at like 13:25 in the afternoon. The principal place of business address took a little longer because there are requirements that you have to prove that it's not a post office box, staple store, all those kind of things. So they did verify that and got him back up and running. And this all took place in less than 24 hours. And so those are the kind of things that we want to, my Carrier Portal and FreightValidate want to help our customers be able to do. Because the sooner we can get the FMCSA to act, the faster we stop that bad guy.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I think that's really cool that he gives you a shout out too, because you just changed his life.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like with the stress of it all, just dealing with the government and like in general, just the DMV alone, but I can't imagine like, waiting 6 months to like get things rectified and then 48 hours later, boom,
Yeah. 24 hours is too long to wait because you know how many loads a bad guy can post on DAT, post on truck stop, post on load 123, post anywhere and get these. I'm going to come in, I'm going to be the cheapest guy. They think it's still the guy they're dealing with that says, oh yeah, we just have to have a truck that's got to get home. They'll tell every single lie they can to take advantage of people. And that's the stuff that I'm really kind of tired of.
Just think about how fast my kids can get into the snacks when I'm not looking. I mean, I can't imagine like a bad guy on a mission, so
Right.
I get it. I'm going to go.
Another thing that's really important is that I'm so proud of this partnership because the bad guys work together very well to mess with our industry that's been very good to me for 30 years. So I'm pretty passionate about it. But we as an industry need to work closer together to stop these guys because they're actually working harder together than we are. And collaborations are the only way to do that. We have got to stop fighting each other and start fighting the problem.
I get it. And what's like your favorite quote? Like you'd rather let 100 bad guys go free, but
in our platform, will you find somebody that's not that you think should be validated? It's not in violation of law. We don't make them not validated unless we see the piece of paper from the federal government that says this guy's in violation of the law. We'll mark them as a warning if there is a chance that they are, and we're waiting for documentation. But like Meg said, we don't want to be the guy that says, don't use this carrier because he hasn't had inspections or hasn't had some subjective information against him, because that puts carriers out of business. We have enough problems with our drivers and carriers and owner operators. We can't be doing that to them. And like Meg said, I like to say, I'd rather let 100 bad guys go free than put one guy out of business that's a good guy, because it's not fair.
that's not. So we do have a question from Patrick, and Patrick, you didn't miss it. We're going to delve into, your inquiry first, but I think it's important to, help our customers and anybody else understand what your status determinations mean. So, we're completely basically replicating what's going to be on your site, but he wants to know, can you explain how the COI review works? So do you want to just kind of talk about?
Sure.
Yeah, where is it? There it is.
My Carrier Portal is probably known best, started with COI monitoring, making sure there's a COI on file, making sure there's a copy of it and all those kind of things. Where we try and complement that is we look for history with certain insurance companies, with certain certificates, certain underwriters or producers, that the system will flag something that just doesn't seem right. For instance, if we get notification that a company, I'm only using this name because it's probably one of the best known companies out there, is Progressive. Let's say that they have a history, and not that they do, but I'm just saying, using it as an example. Let's say they have a history of insuring scheduled autos, but the scheduled auto information doesn't match the VIN numbers that are coming through, that people are using that truck. like through my carrier portal, if you check the VIN numbers, they're not insured. So then there becomes a problem. The load gets stolen, double brokered. You know, they say they have a lease agreement. So we want you to say, check that. Or there's some certificates that our platform will say, hey, wait a second, the insured legal name on the COI doesn't match the Secretary of State's office or the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. There's something wrong with the name. So what we're saying is that insurance certificate may be valid, but double check it because we found some information. Another thing is that you want to be able to insure. What we do in my brokerage is we contact the insurance company in writing to say, here's my COI, here's the VIN number, is there coverage? Two different things. Having COI verification, monitoring verification that you have a COI is much different than verifying you have coverage on the load that you're giving. So we're just saying when we see that pop up as an issue with the COI review recommended, and I think it's in our terms. I don't know if you're going to pull that up, and it explains pretty in detail what we're looking for. There are a lot of people that use whiteout on, even though I guess that's still available, use whiteout to change a name or an address or coverage or policy numbers. But we just want you to take another look at that. Are we saying they're not valid to use? No, we're saying something triggered us to tell you, make a better business decision before you give them the load.
Yeah. And Michelle, I'll get to that in just a little bit. I want to kind of touch on these other two briefly, and then we can go into what to expect with like the full integration. You want to kind of touch on like, you know, what this one means, and obviously this one means.
Okay. Red means they're in violation of the law. Book, cut and dry, they're in violation of the law. Yellow means there's something that we want you to take a closer look at them. Maybe they're affiliated with 20 other MC numbers, but we haven't found or we haven't gotten back from the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration the FOIA documents to put perfect proof on it. Again, I'm not going to let an innocent guy go to jail. Sometimes it takes 10 months to get that information back from FOIA. So we're saying, while we're waiting for the proof, do your due diligence. Give us a call, we'll help you. Maybe if you see a yellow that you're really concerned with, give us a call, we'll help you get through it, and we'll do an immediate investigation at that point to, you know, see if we can find something else that they're in violation of. But that's what yellow means, is take warning. They may be a great carrier, but there's something that triggers. And we used to have it as broad as if they have a Gmail address. But there are so many companies that have Gmail addresses. And here's my thought on a Gmail address. Just because you have a Gmail address doesn't mean you're a bad carrier or broker. But 99.9% of bad brokers have a Gmail address. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, it's a good rule of thumb. So the other thing that I wanted to, you know, kind of point out here is that there will be a change in the industry, industry standard risk assessment. So instead of just going to a fail, we are given the opportunity for you guys to at least put it under review. You can always change your own risk assessment depending on, you know, how rigorous you want to get. But what's going to trigger these warning statuses are the unable to completely validate, which is what Dale just talked about. And then the other is the COI review. However, this one down, yeah, go ahead.
And I think if before you make that determination, you want to look at this like matched by 32 carriers. Okay, that address, you know, that's a lot of people. But I'm going to give you a better example. The one that comes up is the one that says matched by 358 carriers. There are 358 companies that show their principal place of business as 3377 California Avenue in Signal Hill, California. All have the same email address, which ironically is WTFFMCSA@AOL.com. You know, what the, you know, they're calling them out. They're just like, haha. They have the same phone number. None of those phone numbers are going to have. And the funny thing about that building, it's an 1,800 square foot building in a small block in Signal Hill, California. And there's signs all around it saying no truck parking.
Yeah, absolutely. And that actually just kind of makes my brain go somewhere else is, and I want to get it right because I said it wrong before. So is that the public law 112 or is it the 49 CFR that talks about watching those virtual addresses.
49 CFR paragraph 390.5T talks about virtual addresses, post office boxes. It says on the application that if you list a post office box as your principal place of business, they will not issue authority. That's not true. They do it every day. I built a robotic process automation. Every day at 7:14 in the morning, 7:15 in the morning, I get a list of every carrier that the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration approved the night before: carrier, broker, freight forwarder, MX carrier. I get a list of all of those that they've approved and sent to the Federal Register. There's a 10-day protest period to protest issuance of the certificate. What that robot does is takes that information and goes through and looks at every single possibility for a virtual office in the United States: registered offices, UPS offices, staple stores, pack and mail, all those places. And it prints a letter, because you can't do it electronically with FMCSA. You have to print a letter. Prints a letter saying, I want to protest these 15 people. And we send that letter into FMCSA. We also send a letter to the person that's applying to let them know that, hey, we're on to this thing. And I'll just give you kind of what's happened in the last 7 months. We've got 2,000 of those people that have gone through FMCSA. 30% of those contacted me back saying, hey, I got a letter in the mail from FreightValidate that says I can't use this post office box because you're protesting my authority. I didn't know that we couldn't use a post office box. So I tell them about it. I do a quick investigation on them, or background check, and let them know that you can't do that. They send in their MCS 5889 and change it. They're good to go. They get their authority in 10 days and everybody's happy. 30% of that's 30% of them. The other 33%, a third of them stop their action. They don't finish their VOC3. They stop their deal with their insurance. They just go away because they're caught. Sadly, the other 33% of the 2,000 I've sent in have been issued their authority. But the same thing the other thing that robot does, it goes into our system and puts a red X in there. Even though they have authority and it looks good with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, they're in violation of the law.
Yeah, and actually, we do have a question on here, or I guess just a comment, and then Danielle did answer it. So human intervention can sometimes mean a fat finger event. What's in place to ensure there are no mistakes made in the vetting process when you're saying X, nope, this guy cannot be used? Basically saying, like, there is some level of human intervention, but how are you keeping it objective and, completely valid?
Because we verify it through federal agencies and state agencies. There are some times where, for instance, let's say that somebody spelled their name with an I rather than a Y. We'll check that with the Secretary of State's office. We'll look at the documents. We'll look at their EIN form, and we'll find those things before we mark them as X. Now, if it's a principal place of business, there's not a whole lot of human interaction that needs to go with that. A post office address is a post office address is a post office address.
Good deal. If you guys do have questions, please keep them in the chat. We'll definitely try to answer them. And if we don't get to them in the webinar, then we will absolutely follow up afterward. And I'll also be sending out the recording so nothing gets missed. So yeah, before I get into that, so I kind of want to dig into what it's going to look like, once it becomes live. How are you going to be able to sign up for the free trial, which is going to be an automatic to you guys? It's exclusive to MyCarrierPortal customers. So with these icons here, they're all going to link out. So, again, you're going to have immediate support either through, FreightValidate, MyCarrierPortal, but, somebody's going to be here every step of the way to make sure that you're comfortable with the changes that are happening. But then this eye right here, this is actually going to link out to, and I'm going to have to switch. This is getting tricky. So this is going to link you out to FreightValidate and MCP's landing page over here. Yep. So basically, this is going to reiterate the features. You go ahead and you sign up. Down here, you're going to, obviously mark if you're a carrier broker, put in your DOT number. Once you go in, basically, it's just putting in your personal information. You're not going to need to have any kind of credit card information at all. So for that first 14 days, you're going to have instant access to the actual FreightValidate, all the goodies inside there. But then also, Dale, do you want to kind of show them how you can do the hands-free check? And I think this is awesome. So for shippers, brokers, carriers, there's a lot of ways that you're going to be able to utilize Siri, number one, but then you can also do it through Alexa. And you just download the FreightValidate app. Then you can take your Siri, ask it to check, DOT, MC. So Dale, you want to kind of like show them how easy it is?
Yeah.
You want to do this,
and
bad guy?
we made that to help owner operators primarily. When they're in the truck and they're getting a load from a broker that they saw posted, they don't have time to log into something to check it out. So we just say, hey Siri, check FreightValidate.
Sure, what's the MC number?
387211.
The company Direct Expedite LLC is a broker and is freight validated. Basic company identity verification, risk assessment, and compliance info has been verified by FreightValidate.com. Please follow company protocols for additional safety and compliance vetting. For more information, please go to FreightValidate.com.
So what that tells them is they're validated, that this guy's a broker, so it's okay to take a load from a broker. If you take a load from a carrier, we don't do that. That's illegal. The other thing that we found that brokers kind of like it is it gives them another level of security. We offer this to the shipper to say, hey, when that truck pulls in, look at the MC number on the door, run them through FreightValidate. First of all, it doesn't match what the broker gave you. We have an issue. Secondly, you may have a chance to tell the broker, hey, you just sent me a guy that's a bad guy. Why? And so I think it makes the system stronger.
Yeah. And the carrier can also use it, when they're,
Yeah.
before they take a load, they can also double check the broker too. It's not just like, let's see if this carrier's a bad guy. There's a lot of cross check there.
Yeah. When I first came up with it, I had an Alexa or an Echo, and I took it into a small size brokerage who said that they really want to hire a compliance person to check this sort of thing. And I was able to tell them, with this speaker, you've just hired somebody and you're paying about, for Alexa, you're paying pennies. And this speaker, her name is Alexa. Your dispatcher just needs to yell her name and ask her if the company's good or not. And this girl, Alexa, knows every single carrier in the United States, all 365 of them off the top of her head. 365,000.
It's a lot. Yeah. So going back to kind of what's going to happen though, after the free trial, let me reshare my page again. Essentially, once the 14 days are up, you are still going to have the FreightValidate determinations within the portal. So it's still going to have, the basic like COI, needs review, unable to completely verify, all that kind of thing. However, once the trial is over, if you decide to go through with having the full integration of FreightValidate, you're just going into the portal, you'll go to where you can set up your integration. You'll have, your username, password, just like, integrating with any other tool that you have. And then therefore, when you have that determination pop up, you'll be able to go immediately out to FreightValidate, and it will link to something like this. So let's say that you're an MCP, you're like, oh, this guy is unable to, vet, don't use him. Then you would just click on the determination, which is unable to validate, and then boom. So basically you're going to still have, the complements of FreightValidate. You're going to know what their determination is. And really the point of this whole conversation is to let you know there's a lot that's going on in the background. They're trustworthy. They do their due diligence. I mean, Dale is constantly working. So you'll be able to trust the statuses. It's not that you have to have the full integration, but if you do, I mean, I would think that it's very valuable because you're going to have access to all the tidbits. So let's say that you have a ticked off carrier that's calling in. They're like, what are you talking about? I've been working with you for 3 years. What's going on? I mean, you don't have to give them this information because then you're kind of giving them information to, tell others like, hey, we need to work around this. This is like a new thing that they're checking. But so you're going to have access to all this kind of stuff. And then, so right from here,
I just want, sorry for interrupting, but I would just
That's
recommend
okay.
that you say, you know, there's an issue with FreightValidate, and if you, Meg, I don't know if you can show the screen for the terms of use.
Yeah.
So if I were the broker and a carrier had that issue, this is what I'd read to them. Sorry, there's an immediate red flag. So it just means that there's something wrong with the system. You're not contact FreightValidate. Take yourself off the hook.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good idea too. Or you can have them, reach out to us as well.
Yeah, right. FreightValidate, right. Reach out to our team. We don't want to make a playbook for bad guys.
Yeah, definitely not. So that's what I mean. Some of it can be, tight-lipped, but I think just letting them know, hey, this is what's going on. If you have questions about it, reach out to Dale, reach out to Meg, or, we have 2 different dedicated inboxes that, are going to be able to provide support as well. So, back to the free trial thing though. So once the free trial ends, you're still going to see, the determinations. If you continue, you're going to be able to click on the determination, and then you're going to see the full gamut. Also, you're going to be able to download that app. You'll have the Siri and Alexa. You can do that hands-free thing. And there's a lot of other cool things that, FreightValidate as a whole offers. So, I don't know if you want to kind of touch on the facial recognition.
Yeah. When we first started FreightValidate, we required everybody to go through facial recognition verification. Although that's commonplace in most businesses, even at Walmart, if you want to rent a car from Avis, they have you go through facial recognition. But Freight has always been the last to really engage technology. I mean, RPAs and robotic process automation have been around forever in banks and everything. But so for some carriers, small and big, they thought that was a bridge too far to require facial recognition from everybody. So we've made it an on-demand platform. So just to give you an example, for my brokerage, because I probably have to hold my brokerage to an even higher standard because I'm running FreightValidate. So we want to make sure that we take way above. So for a carrier to come on to be a carrier for FreightValidate, they have to go through MyCarrierPortal. But any owner, an authorized representative that's been verified, or a member of the C-suite has to go through facial recognition verification. And what we did is we developed FaceValidate.com, where you can click on it, get a link, we'll send it to you. So every owner has to go through, or an owner of the company has to go through that. Then if that company becomes, they're okay to use, a dispatcher would need to also go through facial recognition verification if they're bidding on one of our loads. If we tender him that load, the driver that gets tendered the load also has to go through facial recognition verification. And we know exactly who he is. So all 3 parties, we know who they are. So think of it as clear at the airport. We're not going to let them go through security without knowing who they are. Now, is there a chance for that guy to double broker a load? Sure, just like security at the airport. There's a chance there's a gun in the bag. But if there's a gun in the bag, I know who it is. I know who double brokered the load: the driver, the carrier, the owner operator. So the part we do with the driver is part of the facial recognition verification is we know within 5 feet of where that person is standing. So when you're taking a load from somebody and he says, oh, he's right around the corner, he'll be there in an hour, we know that because we just did facial recognition with that driver, that he's 3 hours away. So, you're not going to get the call anymore that says, oh, I'm sorry, his truck broke down, he's 6 hours away. We want to just eliminate that. So the other part we do is part of the facial recognition verification is the driver needs to take a picture of himself, his identification, which we verify that ID is correct, the picture hasn't been changed, he's got a valid CDL, all those kind of things. Then we send the customer a picture, the selfie of that guy, so they can give it to the shipper and say, if anybody that comes in here to pick up this freight doesn't look like this guy, call me, don't give him the load. So we cover all those bases, and we're going to eventually make an API of this, so you don't have to come. It's very manual right now because we're working on an API. Because we're tying it in with some other financial and banking information, because what's happening, people are buying MC numbers left and right. They're usually tied to the same bank account. There may be a guy has a bank account that's got 5 different companies as DBAs to his bank account, but the best way to fight fraud is follow the money. So even stolen money has to be deposited into a bank account. We're working on a platform right now that will allow us to check, when we ask for the voided check, it might say ABC Trucking in the top left corner on the check. The routing number and VIN number, or the routing number and account number, he may be sharing that with a bunch of others. So we're checking everybody that belongs to that bank account and those kind of things. But that's upcoming probably mid-September, early October. It's another check to stop the bad guys, because identity theft is the hardest thing to catch. And we're really working hard on that, because the bad guys will buy an MC number from a good guy who just wants to go out of business for $60,000. But one of the things is you can't call FMCSA. I need to have the login for your Gmail account or your account. So we're really trying to combat that next. And I'm glad you brought this up. We can talk about Freight Club a little bit. Freight
I don't know
Club.
if you want to just touch on this real quick, and then I do want to maybe open it up for questions if anybody has anything.
Freight Club was designed because I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. If you want to find me, I'll be on Dale Prax at LinkedIn or FreightValidate. But we're finding more and more people saying, hey, look out for this guy, he did this. Look out for that guy, he did that. So what we're doing is building a playbook and a guide for bad guys, scumbags, to pivot. So they're saying, hey, they're onto us for this, or hey, my MC number was blasted all over LinkedIn, I better sell that and buy another one. So I wanted to develop a social media platform that is only for freight professionals. You have to go through facial recognition verification to become part of it. You have to be vetted, all those kind of things. So now when we share ideas, it's not getting out to the bad guys. Similarly, coming out at the end of September, we're developing something called the Freight List, which will be, if anybody's been in this business for a long time, the blue book or the gold book. We're developing a network of validated carriers, customers, shippers, drivers that have they've gone through the whole gamut of, are these guys a good guy? So we can have more confidence in who we're dealing with. And shippers can look at those good guys and say, hey, this guy's gone through everything. I mean, facial recognition, the bank check, everything. We know we can give freight to this guy without having to worry about him getting double brokered and us paying the bill.
Yeah.
And
so
then,
we have a couple questions, and I definitely want to touch on these. So are there any email verification options with MCP or FreightValidate other than FMCSA checks? Verification options.
I'm not sure what that really means.
Really, Christopher, I'm thinking like when you go to invite a carrier, maybe. We'll get back to that. So if they're, like I said, no question is going to go unanswered at all. I'm definitely going to go back through the transcript and I'll email everybody individually. If anyone does have any questions right now that you want Dale or I to answer while we're here, go ahead and put them in the chat. We also have a Q&A section over here also. And no, we're not affiliated with CargoNet. That was a question that we had earlier.
Can I just jump back to the email communication thing for just a second? It's really hard to pin that down, but I will give you all a place where you can go to get some better information on that sort of thing. The website's called seon.io, seon.io, and you can enter an email address in there. You can also enter a telephone number in there. If it's the United States telephone number, make sure you start with a +1, but it'll tell you if that's a burner phone. It'll tell you if the email address has maybe been used in other scams or those kind of things. So that's something that we try and give out to our folks. Again, that's an educational piece that we're saying, hey, if you want to take a deeper dive into this thing, like most of the time when you find on MyCarrierPortal somebody changed their phone number and it's a scam guy, you can look up that phone number like we did just yesterday for a customer for them and found out that that's a burn phone. I would never give a load to somebody that's got a burn phone.
Yeah. And again, so that's seon.io?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to put that in the chat also.
You can check IP addresses on there too. So it's a plethora of good information to dig and find more folks.
Cool. Well, we're coming up on time, and I just want to kind of go over kind of next steps for FreightValidate and MyCarrierPortal. So we have, I was just telling Dale today, I was like, wow, we have a lot of podcasts coming up. Like, if they just keep coming in, and I think, we're going to be basically hammering those out because this is a huge announcement. This is a nice, new merger. And I think that this is really going to change the face of fraud. So we do have a lot of podcasts, webinars, and things like that coming up. I always post on socials, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and then I do try to send out the marketing emails to all of MCP active users. And then I don't know if you guys know about the Broker Carrier Summit, but it's an awesome event. I highly recommend it. I went to their first ever one and I was just blown away. It's very cool. So that one's going to be happening October, I believe it's October. But what's pretty cool is, as Dale was, mentioning with that Ken Riddle guy from DOT and FMCSA, he's actually going to be there and he's going to be, taking those questions. So if you have some questions like, hey, what are you doing about this? You can just right there in person. It's not like he can say, well, we're putting it under advisement or I'll get back to you. It's going to be live. So, go nuts. And then I believe the next one coming up is the McLeod User Conference. So we're also going to be having, ooh, I got a typo there. I hate that. But we're going to have a showcase there. Me and Dale will be kind of going into more detail about everything and then, what to expect, new features coming out, new announcements, things like that. We're about to get right back into conference season, folks. The break was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Dale, do you have any kind of like final comments and how can people reach out to you if they want to get a hold of you?
Yeah. You can reach me at info@freightvalidate.com. Anywhere on LinkedIn. Our website obviously is freightvalidate.com, but I want to add just one thing about the Broker Carrier Summit and why it's important and why I thought it was very important that I invite Ken Riddle to this event. Most events that the FMCSA attends they may go to MATS or they may go to OIDA conferences where they're talking just to drivers and carriers. And then sometimes the information gets a little skewed because there are no brokers there to defend themselves. They may go to TIA and not be able to defend themselves against the carrier. So we wanted to have a place where they can go in there and both sides are sitting in front of that main stage listening to the same exact thing in an open environment. And I'm looking forward to my carrier portals, and I'll be on the stage with Ken and we're going to moderate that event. Coming from the fraud fighting side and listening to what they have done, what they're doing now, what they plan to do, and then offering our insight from our audience on what we think that we need help with most. You're on mute, Meg.
Yeah, I figured that out. So this is a good one from Sasha. What does FreightValidate do for us brokers?
Well, brokers. Yeah, the good thing is that we don't just check carriers, we check brokers too. We protect brokers from being double brokered by saying, hey, don't take a load from a carrier, don't give a load to a bad carrier. We want to make this thing good for brokers, carriers, freight forwarders, factoring companies, insurance companies. So for brokers, we're trying to say, hey, you shouldn't give a load to this guy because he's known for, or he's in violation of a law. You should really, we looked at the certificate of insurance. We think there may be something you want to look at to make sure that you're in compliance. And that VIN number you gave the truck to or the freight to is part of that scheduled autos on that insurance policy, things like that. We want you to dig deeper. We want to give you the tool to say, hey, don't just take this guy because he's the cheapest. Check into this guy because, the problem we have in the freight business, and I think that we'll all agree, is that we have, we're gamblers. We'll go all in on a Friday afternoon when the guy comes in at the cheapest price and we get our bonus. And we've just got to stop the gambling problem.
All right. Let's
Add to
see.
that, if there's anything you think we can do better for brokers or better for carriers, let us know. We may have thought about it, we may have it in the works, or it may be a great idea that we want to implement.
Yeah, absolutely. And My Carrier Portal is huge on that. So we have an inbox suggestions at MyCarrierPortal.com. It's monitored all the time. And honestly, like that's something I love about our CEO and our company as a whole is that they really read every suggestion. And I've seen it be implemented within the week. Our dev team is amazing. They're roasting it right now. So if you guys do have any suggestions about our stuff, FreightValidate, integration, or just in general, yeah, just reach out and I'll put it in the chat as well. I'm a shipper. Will it be beneficial to attend this summit in Fort Worth?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think you'll like it. So Trey Griggs, Robert Bain,
Dan Lindsay,
Dan, Dana Lucas, what's his name?
Dan Lindsay,
Dan
Dawn
Lindsay,
from,
yeah.
Dawn, of course, from
Green screens.
yeah.
Yep.
That board of directors is just, they're some of the best people in our business.
They really are. And I like the way that they're, to me, I mean, maybe no one's unbiased, but it really seems like they're about as unbiased as you can get, being in the industry. Bunch of good folks there. Absolutely. Highly recommend it. So I will put the suggestions inbox email in this chat, and I can even send the link to everyone in that email to sign up for the broker carrier if you would like to. But if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My email's in the chat also. But we're excited, and we want everybody else to get excited about it. It's just good stuff all the way around. And we'll constantly be informing you guys. So no one's in the dark. You're going to reading an email. So yeah. So thank you guys so much for coming on. I will be sending out the recording, and if you have questions, reach out. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. See you later.